Today I wanted to share with you guys my experience working in the radio industry. If you're new to my channel, I make videos all about traveling with anxiety and living well with anxiety, but on Thursdays I like to upload something that's a little bit random and fun, which is why I wanted to tell you guys some stories today and share my experiences of what it was like to work in the promotions departments of radio stations here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Whether you clicked on this video because you want to work in the radio industry, or if you're already a member of the Fearless fam, be sure you've hit both that subscribe button and that bell icon down below so you don't miss any of my videos. I have some really fun travel opportunities coming up. I'm actually going to be leaving town tomorrow, and if you guys watched my live stream, you definitely know where I'm headed. And if you didn't, that should still be available. Click up here. Okay, radio. My story. Let's get into it. The way I got into radio, kind of weird. So I was a communications major in college with a minor in music. I originally was going to have a major in music. When I realized that I was more on the communication side of things rather than the music side of things, so I didn't want to be like a performer or anything like that, that's when I started to become really interested in radio. There was a radio station on campus, and I went to Willamette University, which is a very small school. So my junior and senior year of college, I ran my radio station alongside my friend. We were co-presidents. We had a radio show together. It was very laid back. I managed about 50 student DJs, which sounds like a crap load of work, but it actually was a lot easier than you would expect. But my friend and I did take it a little bit more seriously than anybody else had done from what we could tell for like at least a decade. So we ended up having a band on campus. We hosted this like Bob Marley event. We ended up partnering with a local like community radio station that was just starting, and all that like sparked this flame in me to get into radio. So there was one summer where I came home, was with my parents, home for the whole summer, you know, college student, and I got an internship at the local radio station. And this place had like 3 full-time employees, so it was very small. I ended up having such a variety of responsibilities. So I did board hopping, I recorded my own little segment that aired. I think they were like 10-minute long segments about these like art installations that were popping up all over town. I think I did 2 or 3 segments. I had segments on air where I was interviewing local musicians and budding artists. I edited video. This was actually the first time in my life I ever edited video, was at this radio station. I even cleaned the fish tank. I dropped the fish. I've never admitted that to anybody. So I graduated college, and if you want to know the story of what happened between then and moving to San Francisco, you'll have to go watch the How I Met My Husband in Vegas video, linked up above. So we're going to fast forward to being in San Francisco. I really wanted to break into the radio industry, and my dad is a very proud, awesome, typical dad. He was talking about me all the time, how proud he was, and sharing what it was that I wanted to do with my career with everybody he possibly knew. And there's this random colleague that he ended up talking to who said, "Oh, my son-in-law is the VP of alternative music at Sony Records in New York City." And my dad was like, "Whoa, is there any way he could talk to my daughter on the phone for like 5 minutes?" So I ended up talking to this guy for a few minutes on the phone. He put me in touch with a guy named Aaron Axelson at Live 105, which is a CBS radio station in downtown San Francisco. And Aaron Axelson is like a god of music in San Francisco, basically. I ended up in the office of Aaron Axelson having a good conversation with him, and then he ended up suggesting that I join the Live 105 action team, which is kind of like a street team. If you've ever gone to a music festival and there were radio station booths there, those are promotions people who are like doing all that kind of stuff, and the people who are manning the booth are very likely members of the street team of that radio station. It's a minimum wage position, part-time work. You sign up for shifts as you're available. The shifts can be anything from like a farmer's market to a huge music festival to a concert, a random promotion that you're doing with some kind of company. It can range so much. So it's our responsibility to pack things into the vehicle, to drive on site, to do everything from start to finish at the event, to report it all back at the very end, and then clean everything up afterwards. So I would definitely say that loading up the vehicle, unloading the vehicle, setting things up, cleaning things up, that's definitely the least glamorous part of the job, for sure. I mean, it's a minimum wage position, so you're gonna get tasks assigned to you that are not that fun. But then on the other hand, there's this super duper weirdly glamorous side of that kind of a job position. I've helped run meet and greets, so I've met a bunch of different artists. When you work these big music festivals, a lot of times you're working half the day, and then the other half of the day you just get to chill at the music festival for free. The very first music festival I ever worked for Live 105 was an Outside Lands music festival where Paul McCartney was performing, and I have been a fan of Paul McCartney since I was basically in the womb. Any of the festivals that went on that were put on by Live 105, by the time I had worked there for at least a year, I was starting to get these tasks that were like more glamorous. I mean, I'm using the word glamorous just to describe that surreal feeling of like, this is my job? I had a job once where I was standing on a platform with the VIP winners, and I got to watch a concert that included The Neighborhood. Do you remember that Sweater Weather song? Lord, when she was like first on the scene, Phoenix, Alt J, freaking Arcade Fire. Like, I was getting paid to just stand there and watch this concert. It was very, very cool. Obviously, there are moments where you get pulled away since you are working. That same music festival, I helped run the meet and greet for Imagine Dragons, Alt J, Phoenix. I ended up getting to watch MIA from backstage. She was like my favorite artist at the time. I got to watch Empire of the Sun from like literally right there. I actually went like hard of hearing for a couple days from that experience. Oh, a couple more that I helped run meet and greets for. Fantagram, Fits in the Tantrums. Oh, I also got free tickets sometimes. That was always exciting. That happens less frequently than you think though. The listeners come first and usually comes down to very last minute. Any kind of big artist, you're not gonna get free tickets for. So this whole time while I was working for Live 105, this is just a part-time position. I maybe did 1 or 2 shifts a week. So I always had a full-time job as well as this little part-time job. And then there was a full-time position that became available at the sister station of Live 105, which basically just means that they're both under the CBS radio umbrella. So I applied for the position and I got it. And I worked there for almost a whole year. That's the job that I ended up quitting before I went to China. It was a really hard decision to end up quitting that job. But anyways, I became the promotions coordinator at Alice 97.3. The 2 radio stations were so different in vibe. So Live 105 is an alternative rock station. So there's, everyone has piercings and tattoos. And sometimes you'll walk into the studio and someone's wearing like a hot dog costume. And it's just the most random situations that you run into. It's super silly and fun and weird. And then Alice, on the other hand, played artists like Maroon 5, Taylor Swift, Pink, Kelly Clarkson, Bruno Mars. So it was a much different feel. It was a lot girlier feeling and a lot more grown up. Live 105's main color scheme is like black everything, and then Alice was like pink everything. So it was like totally a shock for me, but it was really, really cool to be in a position like that. I felt like I had made it in my career. I felt like I had gotten my foot in the door somewhere where I loved working. My bosses were so amazing, and I was on track to be in like my boss's position, years down the line. My primary role at Alice was 2 different things. One was coordinating everything regarding ending and closing out an on-air contest. When the radio station decides to put a contest on air, there are sponsors involved a lot of the time. Then when it's all over, you have to coordinate how the contest winners are going to get their prize. Sometimes social security numbers get involved because if a prize is over a certain dollar value, then it's required that you file with your taxes. If you've ever won a contest on air, they'll tell you, oh, someone from promotions will be in touch with you. I was that person from promotions that was in touch with people. So that was half my job. The other half was managing the promotions team. So remember how I was on the action team at Live 105? Now I was in the position of being the manager of the whole team for Alice. So I had probably 25 people on the promotions team, and it was my responsibility to do everything regarding hiring, firing, scheduling, communicating with people, every single thing, preparing my promotion staff to be at an event, like on-site promoting the station. All the prep was my responsibility. All the cleanup was my responsibility. I was constantly doing like manual labor, which is not what you think of when you think, oh, I'm going to work in radio promotions. I'd say the least glamorous part of that job position was definitely the load up and clean up from the vehicles. I had to park in this really, really tight downtown garage, like underground garage, and go up through an elevator using carts, and I had to do it all solo, all by myself. I had to be able to lift an easy up tent by myself. A lot of manual labor that was very non-glamorous. The other 2 things that kind of sucked were just getting people to sign up for shifts. I felt like I was sending emails like every day, bothering my employees to be like, please sign up for 1 shift, just 1 shift, do it. And then as soon as a festival comes up, all the employees are like, can I work the morning shift on the second day of Outside Lands? And it just becomes this whole thing where you realize that the reason that a lot of people take on a promotions team position is to get free tickets, to get into festivals for free, to meet artists for free. So trying to weed out those people from the promotions team is very difficult and very not glamorous. But then there was the glamorous side of things. One of the first things that I had to do for the radio station was go stay at a resort in San Diego. It was a contest that people had won to go hang out with the morning show. It was a whole like corporate promotion kind of a thing, and it involved a flight and everything. So I was like at the airport with a sign that said like Alice 97.3, like collecting the contest winners. As somebody who's on the promotions team, you're not supposed to be like partying with the listeners because you're supposed to be facilitating the party. So basically you're like the DD hanging out with a bunch of drunk people, which can be fun or not fun depending on your attitude. I also got to go to Napa and stay at the Westin. So I got to have like my own room in this really nice hotel, and it was all for Bottle Rock, which is a big music festival in Napa. The first day Eric couldn't come with me, but the second day he was able to come out. So Eric got to like reap only the benefits from this experience, and he was like, oh my gosh, your job is so cool. We were staying at a nice hotel. We were walking distance away from this crazy festival. We had like VIP wristbands on so we could just get in super easy. We didn't have to wait in line. We got to see artists like really close. We didn't have to like go through crowds and stuff like that. It was really, really awesome, like pampered feeling experience. Really quickly, I did end up in Hawaii, also at the Disney resort, which is called Aulani. If you guys watch Daily Bumps, I know they've been there at least once before. It's a really nice resort. And basically that trip was me going with one of our DJs for this whole like promotional thing. She was like live broadcasting, and I had to help with the broadcast and take photos and post to social media and make blog posts and all kinds of stuff. But honestly, most of the time I was chilling. Couple more things that made the job awesome. Getting to wear walkie-talkie at any event where the radio station was putting it on. Always a good time. I mean, I don't love wearing walkie-talkie. It's actually a little stressful because there's like a lot of people talking into it. But I did feel like a sense of power walking around the festival looking like I had something to do with like a walkie-talkie on. I felt very official. Also, sometimes big companies who have bought a big promotional spot on the radio station will sometimes do really nice things for the people who are on air for the morning show. And it's to get the morning show to talk about them more. Every single year before Thanksgiving, like with plenty of time to order your Thanksgiving dinner, Whole Foods comes and brings in a full Thanksgiving dinner for the morning show. So I got to have a Whole Foods Thanksgiving dinner for freaking breakfast, and it was amazing. Also, one time there were puppies when I walked into work. One time Metallica was there. One time there were kittens there. So yeah, there was just a lot of stuff in the office sometimes that'd be going on when I was there, so it was a really fun office environment. I mean, I could roll out of bed with no makeup and my hair all crappy and wearing like a t-shirt and leggings and go to work getting like that. Some days I had to look really nice. The position varied day to day. It was so different, and I loved that about it. I loved the variety. Probably my favorite part though is the chance I got to meet and hang out with emerging artists. So I met Elle King before anyone knew who Elle King was. I got to see a really intimate performance with Tovlo, with Hosier, with Michael Franti, James Bay. The other thing I didn't mention is that when you meet all these artists, like there's this unwritten rule that you have to be like cool around them. You cannot freak out. You will not get hired if you are clearly a fan of something. So for example, I ran a meet and greet for Fantagram. I'm a huge fan of Fantagram, but I had to pretend like I could care less. And I became really good at that. So yeah, it's kind of cool to put on that radio persona. Really though, the really awesome part was how silly and fun the radio station could be sometimes. I feel like I've said a lot of things are my favorite part, but like that might actually be my favorite part is like the friendships that I made while working at both radio stations and the silliness that ensued. I remember wearing a shark costume one time. You just have to be like really bubbly and outgoing and fun. You're trying to facilitate like a fun, positive time for people and get them to associate that positivity with the name of a radio station. So the fact that you're always doing like cool stuff like that, like fun, things that are meant to be like just for fun, that's a pretty cool part of the job. One thing that I learned how to do really well that I did not expect, I am now fully capable and not anxious about driving large SUVs in downtown San Francisco, which as somebody who deals with anxiety and as somebody who didn't get their license till they were 17 because they were too freaked out about driving, that's kind of a big deal to me. But when it really comes down to it, if you really do want to work in the radio industry, there are two huge things that you really, really need to be aware of. Number one, the industry is kind of dying. Like it's not dead, it's not set to die anytime like soon in the next couple of years or anything, but you definitely get the feeling when you work in radio that it is a dying industry. I'm pretty sure Intercom actually just purchased all CBS radio stations. Don't quote me on that. Big mergers like that happen out of the blue. They can change everything. I know at one point there was like a digital department doing social media for every single radio station separately. Then that all got merged together. People lost their jobs. My bosses even had to continue fighting for my position because the company was trying, they were trying to cut costs like crazy. So they never said it outright, but it was pretty obvious. So you definitely have to like love it because you have to fight for it. The other thing thing is that the money is not very good. I'll just be completely open with you guys. So I made minimum wage at Live 105, working really part-time gigs. You know, I hardly made any money from them. But when I worked at Alice, and this might sound like a lot depending on what area of the country you live in, but you have to understand it in terms of San Francisco. So I believe my salary at Alice was $30,000. So my paycheck every 2 weeks was about $1,000. In San Francisco, $2,000 a month isn't gonna get you anything. And as far as I was able to uncover, there are few people in radio making a lot of money. Obviously, if you stay with one company for a long time, there are perks to that. But I was not making a livable wage working as a promotions coordinator, and I was working myself to death sometimes. I remember being at work and having this massive to-do list and running around like crazy trying to get it all done, having to stay late. My commute was like an hour each way, so I spent a lot of time on public transportation. It was just a really exhausting and oftentimes overwhelming job. My bosses at the time took their jobs, and they probably still do take their jobs very seriously. So it wasn't something where I could just ignore my phone if I got a text from them. I needed to be available most of the time. There were lots of things that I had to do that were late at night, lots of multi-day things. I'm on a salary, so I'm not getting paid overtime to be there. These trips that you end up going on, these music festivals that you end up going to, a lot of times you end up paying more for food along the way and transportation than you would if you were at home having like a normal work week. But overall, working in radio was very fun. It was really fun. I know I'm looking a little hesitant right now. You know, I left it for a reason. When it really came down to it, working in the radio industry is not for me. And I'm not saying I'm not open to the opportunity. I just can't see myself working for an industry that feels outdated like that. I felt like I was constantly on the verge of losing my job, and that I had to be just simply grateful for the low salary I was getting, because at least it was a salary. I'm happy that I did that, but the reality was that Eric was on the GI Bill, so he's a student full time, and he's getting whatever the livable income is from, you know, his veterans bill, and that was like twice as much as the money I was making from working full time, commuting 2, sometimes 3 hours a day. So it just became too much for me, and it became not worth it anymore. If radio is where you want to be and you watch this video and you're stoked about working in radio, then I say go for it. Tell everybody what you want to do. Just tell it to every single person that listens to you, because eventually you will meet a contact who knows a contact who knows a contact, and you can get your foot in the door. So thanks for listening to my story, and don't forget to follow me on Snapchat, because I am doing a really fun trip this weekend, and I'm probably going to be Snapchatting all of it. So I actually need to go pack. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you either on Snapchat or on Monday. Okay, bye.